Let's work our way through the chord progression now to Tears in Heaven. The first thing I like to have people do with this, when I'm working on this with a student though, is get used to playing the chords, not worrying too much about the picking yet, at least in the introduction, and just playing it with 2 pinches on each chord. And if we follow the intro, we'd have 1 pinch on the E7 sus4 and 1 pinch on the E7. So you could be looking at the tablature or the chord chart if you've got the names of the chords figured out from the left hand close up and all that other stuff. But it's really good to practice this song in small chunks. So the first thing is get the chords down to where you can play them and smoothly make that change right there from A to the E with G sharp in the bass to the F sharp minor, and even on this F sharp minor you don't even need any other fingers down. You can get away with just a bar, and then you shorten the bar to the A, and now we get back into our first inversion chord shape. That's a really important shape to have down with your second, third, and fourth fingers, because that's really one of the most difficult things in the song. So after you've warmed up your left hand and learn to get through those chords, now you can take a look at the tablature. Let me move my tablature here, and try to get the little fancy ornaments that are thrown in this. The hammer-on in the bass, you might as well do with your first finger, and then you're going to hit the open A in the bass. While you're hitting that A, you have to be getting the bar down for the A chord. So you don't want to do this. Don't wait on hitting that bass note until you've got the chord down. Practice going and just getting to that A without even having the chord down, and then you have to get this A down quickly. This is one of the most difficult parts of the song, is getting that smooth and getting to the very next chord. That's the next most difficult part of the song. So right in the very beginning, you've got one of the hardest combinations of things that has to happen. So it's really important to work on that a lot. Don't just gloss over it and think, oh, I'll worry about that later or something. This part, you got to get on. So, very slowly, do the hammer on, hit the A in the bass, and get the bar on. And you could practice just going that far. And make sure that that note comes in clean. Because if you've gotten that far, now you're set for the next thing. The next thing, though, is its own difficult move. You have to hold the bar down, hit the second string, hammer on with your second or third finger. Again, I like my second. Eric uses his third. You could try it with either one, but it's a combination move where you're hammering on and then pulling off. Now you have to make sure that you think of that as 2 separate moves. It's not just take a swing at the note. You have to hammer it on, hold it for 3 or 4 frames, and then pull it off. So you're coming in and landing and then pulling down like that. Okay, it's not just flyby where you, okay, so work on that hundreds of times, especially if it's not coming out very clear. You got to get that really crisp if you want to be playing this song correctly. Now, when you go to the E with G sharp in the bass, the biggest thing you want to not do here is change your hand position. If you're in good position for the A chord, your thumb's nice and low, you can get to that E with G sharp just by letting go of the bar and moving your fingers here. You don't need to move your hand up the neck to reach this chord, probably. You might have to go a little, but you don't want to do this. Like Eric does. Okay, he can get away with things that I don't recommend for students, because he's him. We're not. He wraps his thumb around again and comes up there. So he changes hand position drastically. Make this more efficient. Get to that E with G sharp in the bass, and now you're in great shape to go to the F sharp minor. So this whole thing can be played really with your thumb never leaving the area of the 2nd fret. Okay? All right. Now, let's take a look. Now, let's go a little further into the chords. Now we get into the right hand, hitting, in this case, in the very first time we have this E with G sharp in the bass. We have a pinch, then a bass, then the 2 melody notes by themselves, and then on the very next 8th note, these are all consecutive 8ths, we have to be on the F sharp minor. And that F sharp minor is held over for another 8th note before we come in on the and of that beat with the bass. And we have now this kind of alternating thing, and then it changes to the A when I say alternating, meaning we're hitting a bass note and melody notes opposite each other, no pinches in there. Then we drop our A, we come back to our A shape, but keep hitting the 6th string in the bass, and if you're following the tab exactly, we've got a double bass note. We have a pinch followed by a bass, then followed by fingers, and then another bass. So you do want to be able to play exactly what's there, but you don't really need to do exactly that, especially when you're singing it. And even in Eric's version, when he sings it, he's usually playing a few less notes with the chords. So it could be so you just got to follow the tablature and get everything in there. And when we get to the end of the introduction, it starts with that same hammer on, and that's where the singing comes in. Would you know? And then we're off into there. Notice if you're looking at the verse, when it gets to the E with G sharp, I don't have it continuing. That's what I mean. It gets a little more sparse during the singing. D with F sharp, and notice there, a pile of bass notes. To the E chord, I would usually play this E with just one finger, because you don't need anything else, and now you're in good shape to flatten out or to play your 2nd and 3rd fingers like we looked at in the left hand close-up. 2nd and 3rd fingers to the notes at the 2nd fret, and then your 1st and 2nd fingers to the notes at the 3rd and 4th. So there's the whole first line. Here that is. I'll play it exactly the way it says right there, but it's not that important, again, that you keep the bass exactly the way it says there, and but here's what it will sound like. I'm going to do it kind of slow. From the hammer on into the verse. So I'm starting at the last note of the first line. Second line. Chord is the same. Now we go to the F sharp minor, and again, you don't need anything other than the bar, but I still would put my 3rd finger on the C sharp on the 5th string. And I like to keep the bar on for this chord, the C sharp with E sharp, and just drop it a half step, bar at the 1st, and your 2nd finger playing the note on the 2nd string. Again, you could finger that though the same way we've been doing the other 1st inversion chord, the D with F sharp and the E with G sharp. To an A7 with E in the bass, and now this F sharp 7, and here's a part that I don't have in the tablature, but I did look at it, I mentioned it in the left hand. You hear a little ascending bass part. So on the 3rd and 4th beats of that F sharp chord, you could play the 4th fret of the 6th and 3rd strings and the 6th fret of the same 2 strings to our B minor 7. Now, when you shorten the B7 to get that open E in the bass, it's really important that you keep that at least the note on the 2nd string ringing. And the timing in there can be a little bit shaky, but I'll play it exactly the way it's supposed to go, I think. Let's see, from the B minor 7 into the shortening of the bars to the E in the bass. Into our hammer on. And this part is more like the introduction again. So that's all you do to get through the verse. Now, when you're going into the bridge is going to come out of an introduction. So you will have ended on an A chord, and the same place where we've had this hammer on leading into the A chords before, we're going to have a hammer on the 5th string. This is not in the tablature either. A hammer on from A to B to land on the C. Now the picking on the C chord, so that's going to sound like this, from our A. Time can, and then we're off into that part. The picking on this C chord can really be anything you want. What I have in there is this. More of a normal arpeggio type thing, and then when it goes to G with B in the bass, starting with a pinch, and it gets to the A in the bass early, that A that is on the fourth and of that measure is really preceding the A minor chord that happens in there. Time can bring you down, time can bend your knees. So through that whole series of chords, and I think I messed this up in the left-hand close-up because I wasn't looking at the tab at the time, your fourth finger stays on that D throughout all those chords. The G chord, the D with F sharp, to an E minor, leaving the D on there, really making it E minor 7. Back to the D with F sharp, and a quick grab on the G before we repeat the next line. Timing was a little bit off on that E chord, but you get the idea. It really just lands on the E. So I hope that you can make this your own from just those two little things. Again, as I mentioned, I think in the preview, you can find tablature to this that has the whole song from top to bottom, every note exactly the way you played it that one time that we've heard on the Unplugged album. Every time he plays this, it's different. He's not worried about making sure, was I supposed to play a double bass note there or just a single bass note? Or was I playing the chord with it? Was I pinching it? Was I doing this? It's not important. What is important is that you get the chords right and you sing the song. And you could just strum the song. It would sound great. So just make sure that all the techniques that happen in here are ones you're comfortable with, and then play it your own way. That's really the point of this song. Learn the hammer-on, make sure that this is important. That's the most distinctive hook in the instrumental part of the song, or in the musical part. So it is important to get that down, but everything else can be completely varied. You can do whatever you want down here as long as you make the chord changes happen in the right places. So it really is just an accompaniment, or kind of a random accompaniment to obviously a great song. So try to work on it that way. Only get it as exact as you need to so that it sounds right. That's my parting words on this for now. I'm sure I'll have some just in the next chapter because I will do a little metronome on this.